understanding Dan Hurley and how I relate to him. You're locked on.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we dive into today's show, just want to take a moment to say how thankful we are for all of you. We appreciate all of your support. It's been immense, and we're proud to say we're the only daily podcast covering the UConn men's and women's basketball, the hoops capital of the world, and we're thrilled to bring you that coverage because you deserve it. To show our gratitude, we're giving back. We're donating some of our revenue to Husky Ticket Project, helping send kids to UConn games. Just sent a check today to Kevin Solomon and his crew. So excited about that. If you're enjoying the show, take a moment to subscribe, follow, and leave a review wherever you listen. Thanks again for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Okay. I've been wanting to do a show like this for a while, and there's no better time because we'll do a Xavier preview tomorrow. Dan Hurley is an enigma, and I think we've done a lot of good work on this podcast about talking about, his fire, his passion, and we're diving into, essentially someone that's become one of the most polarizing figures in all of college basketball, right? Either love him or you hate him. We love him. There's kind of no in between there. Even in UConn fandom, I've heard some people kind of more on the hate side. If you're like in that teetering there, listen, he's not for everyone. He's not for everyone when it comes to, recruiting. He's not always going to get the player that you want because his practices, his way of life is just different than a lot of people. And you know what? I get it. I really get it. Hurley isn't just coaching basketball. He's living it. He rides the emotional roller coaster that so many of us can relate to. And whether you're a player or a coach or just someone who pours everything into their craft, let me tell you, I've been there. I know what this feels like because it doesn't matter what my career was before I started doing podcasting. I've always had this same mentality of whatever I do it 1,000 miles an hour. So growing up, I didn't have that high school coach pushing me to focus solely on basketball because, my dad brought me up as kind of a multi-sport athlete. He married a woman who's 4'11", even though he's 6'1". So I don't think he expected me to get the height gene, if you know what I mean. So never caught up to any type of skill set that I had. So at 5'11", I could shoot, I could dribble, fairly well, but my speed, not exactly elite for what you need to be at that size. Despite that, I was tenacious. I worked my ass off to be the best player I could be. And that same drive I had on the court, it's still with me today. Because let's face it, guys, I wasn't a professional basketball player, but I worked myself into being a professional tennis player. Got myself a scholarship, did the whole thing. And now I'm covering the sport that I love. Like even when I was playing professional tennis, I always consider myself a basketball player because it's my true passion. It's a true love of what I like to do. And diving into this whole podcasting journey has been wild, from hobby to now full-time, and really excited about continuing moving forward. And that's why Hurley really resonates with me so much, because when I see him on the sideline, living and breathing every single possession, I see myself. And when he yells at officials, I'm literally saying the exact same thing. I get caught up in the moment, and maybe I take things a step too far. I get it because I see that he does it, and I relate to it. And you'd think, maybe some of you know this, some of you don't. You'd think having a stroke 4 years ago would have slowed me down a bit. It has in other things in life. And, I do take a step back and just enjoy the game at times and at a more relaxed pace. My kids have helped me mellow out a little bit, my wife. But if I'm being honest, the passion is still there. It's burning. It's burning as we speak, talking about this. There are still moments I really can't control my emotions when it comes to the game, and that I've loved since I was 8 years old. Some people call that immaturity. Some people call that anger. Whatever you want, whatever characterization you want to call it. I feel that. Hurley, like me, I wear my heart on my sleeve. We both care sometimes too much, and that can be a blessing and a curse. It's something I've wrestled with for years, trying to find the balance between that caring passionately and not letting it consume you, right? My wife always asks me, why do you engage with people who say stupid stuff to you online? And I tell her, because I can't help myself. And it's not just compulsion. It's about standing your ground, never backing down. And Hurley, he's the same way. He doesn't ignore criticism. He meets it head on. He's authentic, unapologetic. And let's be honest, sometimes he's funny. And that's why UConn fans love him, because he's brought the Huskies back to national prominence where we deserve to be, but also winning back-to-back national championships. While the other fan bases may despise him, we know he's exactly what this program needed, and he's in the exact right place for him going forward forever. I'm going to take a quick break, do an ad, and we'll be back. Therapy is a game changer. It can help manage stress, improve sleep, and communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist and fitting sessions into a busy schedule can be a challenge. That's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace is a leading virtual therapy provider, makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and most importantly, affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours, and it's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your home and even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans, and for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize mental health. As a listener of this podcast, you'll get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege and enter promo code SPACE80. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege and enter promo code SPACE80 to get $80 off your first month and show your support for the show. That's Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege, promo code SPACE80. All right, back on Locked On UConn. You should definitely check out that Talkspace. I'm a huge proponent of prioritizing mental health. Literally, this episode is probably dedicated to it, balancing act of that and the passion and the pressure of all that goes involved in the big time coaching world. I'm sure, Dan has outlets to talk to people. And if you can afford it, it's not super expensive to go to Talkspace. Use that promo code SPACE80. It's good to just talk things out and just see what happens. It's never bad to talk to someone that's kind of doesn't have skin in the game. Can kind of just give you their perspective. All right, back to regularly scheduled programming. Dan Hurley, his antics in the sidelines are, at this point, they're legendary. They get played all the time. Like we talked about, he was on First Take yesterday. At least that was the running theme. Stephen A. Smith and Mad Dog Russo are typically arguing about the Cowboys or LeBron, and this was all about Coach Hurley. He said and got caught, saying to the officials, don't turn your back on me or don't big time me. I'm the best bleeping coach in the sport. I had no problem with that. Maybe I'm messed up. Maybe I'm the problem here with that, but I don't have a problem with people telling the truth. I think I was raised right, which is, yeah, you may not like what I'm about to say, and sometimes I'll preface it that way. My wife probably knows that all too well. Hey, don't take offense to what I'm about to say, but this is the truth. And yeah, do I step back and gain perspective if someone says, hey, what you said hurt my feelings? Yeah, I can do that. But in a competitive environment, in a sporting event, that's not a real thing. It's just not. Referees should have thicker skins. What makes him special is, underneath all that intensity, he has an incredible level of self-awareness. And I find myself searching for that at times, but I am one that's quick to say that I was wrong, because it happens a lot. Like you can't do a daily show, or you can't walk around life in general with whatever you do for work and expect to be perfect all the time. Being a perfectionist is not something you can control, but it's definitely something that you can quell. because for all of the mistakes I've made on this podcast, I think I called the Creighton the place where Creighton plays the Cintas Center, and that's actually at Xavier. Even bigger ones when I said the Big 12 move was imminent. 100% was wrong on that, and the source that I had who got me the story led me astray there. Still have a great relationship with that person. They just were wrong, and they apologized to me, and I apologize to you guys. So, but at the end of the day, you can't have, just because you have outbursts or just because you get frustrated about things doesn't mean you can't say that you were wrong. And I don't think that Hurley is trying to be anything but who he is, which is deeply caring and passionate, that fuels him every day. But I've learned, especially after my health scare, there's a fine line between passion and obsession. And sometimes I teeter on the opposite of that, the obsession side. So Hurley himself is constantly trying to find that balance, right? He talks to his mentors and a priest when the pressure builds too much. He's embraced healthy living, traded in beer for mushroom coffee. Maybe I should do that, but I think that would make me a little too jumpy, and pushes himself to the limit on his Peloton. I don't have a Peloton. I know plenty of UConn fans that do. So it's great, but as far as fitness goes, I'm all about the fitness. I totally get that. It's a constant battle. You're finding ways to try to channel that energy productively while trying not to let it consume you or burn up your family, the whole deal. It's a tough dance. You push yourself because you want to be the best, but sometimes it can lead to burnout, disappointment, or heartbreak. Hurley doesn't have a cynical bone in his body. To me, he's all in all the time. And someone who listens to that may say, well, he's probably cynical about some things in basketball. Sure, that's just your profession. But as far as life in general, I think he's all in all the time. He's relatable to so many people like myself. And look, for all the villain talk that surrounds Hurley nationally, UConn fans know the truth. This guy cares. He cares immensely about his players in this program, his legacy, and the name that's on his back. With Hurley, that's what makes him such a special coach, and why I'll always relate to him. So, as UConn marches forward in search of another national title, this year may not happen, but you can bet Hurley will keep being himself, getting some technicals from time to time, working the refs, saying what in the normal society of the regular world probably is inappropriate. I think I read somewhere that, he's or saw in a video with Graham Bensicker, who did that interview with him, that he eats like spinach and beet sandwiches, while watching wolf videos. And for me, I'll keep grinding, loving this game. Maybe learning to let go a little more, maybe sitting back like I did in the Villanova game. But that was a loss. So now I feel like I should be a little more aggressive like I was in the Butler game. It's a teetering back and forth, but it's tough. I do want to continue to have constructive conversations around this team and not always go after people. Sometimes they bring it out of you, like what happened on the live show a couple nights ago, when someone said I'm cowtailing to UConn because for access, and to that I laughed and kind of went a little nuts, because I don't get a ton of access, guys. I do this because I love it, and not because I'm a beat reporter that gets access. So we'll come back and wrap up the this episode that I wanted. That's kind of like a personal one, but it's related to all things Dan and what I think he's trying to accomplish. So we got one more break, and then we'll come back and finish up. Game time. All right, my good friends there. If you're attending NFL playoff games, it's got to be an experience like no other. The energy, the excitement, the connection with other fans has to be unmatched. I've never had the thrill of seeing my favorite team clinch a playoff win live, but I know if I did, it'd be a memory that I would never forget. And this year, Game Time makes it even easier to create those unforgettable moments. With their new feature, Game Time Picks, it filters out the fluff and shows you if you only have the best deals on great seats, so you can focus on what matters, being there and watching your team. I use Game Time Picks to grab tickets for an upcoming playoff game, and it couldn't have been easier. I found a super deal that gave me incredible value for amazing seats, and I can even preview the view from my spot before buying. The all-in pricing is a game changer, no surprise fees at checkout. Plus, knowing the tickets are backed by Game Time guarantee give me the peace of mind. Here's the checklist of why you should use Game Time. They curate deals to make it easier to find the best price and great seats. The super deal is the best value for that event. Seat views before you buy, one-time ticket delivery, lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, and yes, job loss protection. It's a no-brainer. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, last segment of the podcast. Dan Hurley, again, is an enigma. He's balancing all the different things that he's, pursuing this crazy three-peat. I was on a show with Joe D'Ambrosio, and really great to meet him. He's going to be on the pod tomorrow talking Xavier. But he did say that he feels like all of the three-peat talk at the beginning of the year from Dan put immense pressure on his team. And that's probably true. But it's also kind of part of who he is as a person, just like setting a goal and trying to meet it and just throwing your entire heart and soul into it. So, that's that relentless pursuit of excellence and how I see so much of myself in him. And why I admire his fire on the sidelines more so because I let it burn me up too much in my living room. If you could get technicals from your living room, I'd have been thrown out of about 100 games already. So it's what makes him great, and that's what makes anyone great at what they do, right? Whether it's basketball, podcasting, or anything else you dedicate your life to. Hurley's not afraid to wear those emotions for the world to see. And I think it's brave. I do. And people are going to think, and maybe someone's listening to this and they're like, oh, dude, like you're just being overtly complimentary. I'm being 100% honest. I do think when you're unapologetically yourself and you're not what we typically see in the college basketball and the NBA world, like why do people like Joe Mazzulla? Because Joe Mazzulla is a weird, unapologetic, I say weird in quotations because that's just kind of like how he's perceived, where someone will ask him a question and he'll just come up with something that is completely just his. Like there's nobody like Joe. And honestly, there's no one like Dan. Dan is quirky and it's weird in that same sense where, he just beats to the beat of his own drum, or marches to the beat of his own drum. So, for me, it's been the same journey, whether it was on court growing up playing pro tennis or now in my career with this podcasting and broadcasting world. That internal drive, that desire to be the best is something that never really goes away. So sure, life throws challenges at you, health scares, family responsibilities, the need to find that balance. But at the end of the day, the fire that is still there and is always going to be there. And like Hurley, I'm constantly trying to learn how to channel it in ways that fuel me without burning me up. And here's a takeaway. It's okay to care deeply. If you love this team and it's your hobby, it's what you dedicate all of your fandom to, whether you're a coach, an athlete, or just someone passionate about your work, it's whatever matters most to you is how you should manage that energy. So don't ever feel like you're being, talking down to because it's like, oh, it's just a basketball game. It's like, but to you, it may mean more. And that's okay. Because at the end of the day, both Hurley and I are still learning, still evolving. But one thing remains true. We're never going to back down. We'll keep grinding, keep improving, and keep showing up no matter what. Because that's what it takes to be great. And I don't think I'm great at this yet. That's the thing. And I truly believe that even though Dan says those things sometimes to officials, I definitely think he still feels like he has so much room left to grow. And this is a great litmus test for him this year. He doesn't have the best team in basketball, but how far can he take this team with coaching, with scheme, and, hopefully a little luck. So as we head into the next stretch of the season with the Xavier game, the DePaul, Marquette, and then when I'm up in Connecticut to see all you beautiful people, let's take a page out of Hurley's book, bring the passion, stay true to who we are, embrace the journey, because that's what it's all about. You can only control what you can control. Remember that. And you can try to control your actions, because I try to as well. but be yourself. Thanks for tuning in today. Really appreciate anyone that listens to this. Would love to continue the conversation on social media. Hit me up there. But this has been another episode of Locked On UConn. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto, asking you to stay locked in, stay connected. Toughness meters at an all-time high, at least until we get Liam back. And then you know what happens after that? Foot stays on gas. This has been another episode. Really appreciate y'all. Go Huskies.
Go Huskies.